Welcome back to the English time. Hope you are all fine and safe at home. In the previous class, we discussed about the importance of television, and you read it and you answered the side question answers. Very good. Keep it up. Today, we are going to another lesson which is discussing the newspaper. As you know, our unit's name is media and man. So we discussed about messages, radio, television. Now we are going to discuss the newspaper. So first of all, there is a picture in your textbook. All of you look at that picture in the textbook. You have seen that the TV is one of the most popular mass media. By mass media, we mean the ways in which information can be passed on to a large number of people very quickly. Yes, what is meant by mass media? Mass media means we can pass information to a large number of people very quickly. Such techniques or such platforms are called mass media. So television is a part of mass media, and here the newspaper, we are going to discuss mass newspaper. So here you can see a collage. Look at the newspaper collage. It is a collage given in the textbook. What do you notice here? You can see a collage means cut pieces of newspapers. Okay, do you have the habit of reading the newspaper regularly? I have a question. Do you have such a habit of reading newspaper regularly? Some of you have, but you must have. Why? Because if you want to know the happenings which is going on different parts of this world, you have to read newspaper. If you want to know that all, you must know, as a growing citizen of a country, you must know the incidents, events which is happening all over the world at the same time itself. Now you know media is very fast. You can get live telecast from all channels and you can update your knowledge. So if you want to confirm a particular information, you have to go to a newspaper. We all depend upon newspapers for confirming a particular news, because we believe there will be no doubt in the newspaper reports. Okay, so what kind of news items do you read first when you get a newspaper? If you have such a habit of reading newspaper, you will have a favorite area. So after getting a newspaper, you will open that page, that particular page to read. Then only you will go to other pages. So what is your opinion? Which page you will search? Yes, most of the boys will go to the sports page. Yes, I know. Then others will search for what important news items which is there in the first page. So what it may be, you will search for your favorite news that will have a particular page in that newspaper itself. Okay, so one more question is, do you make a collection of news items? So as a student, you can make a collection of news items. Why? Because every day there will be a particular incident. If we take that particular cutting of that newspaper and keep it there, we can make an album which will be useful in the future. Okay, so do you have such a habit? Anyone? No. Some of you have. Yes, very good. Keep it up. So you can collect the important pictures and news items on a particular day. Okay. So as you know, newspaper is very important. Every day after getting up, most of the elder people, they will search for the newspaper, and reading newspaper is a regular habit of what most of the people, but children, they may not have, but you must have that. Okay, so let's read the lesson. The newspaper. The world moves very fast and events happen very quickly in every sphere of life. As you know, the world moves very fast. In this modern world, it is very, very fast. So updating these all events, it is very important. And the different events that happen, all spheres of life. People keep in close touch with the latest developments by reading newspapers. So we have to know, if you want to know what are the developments or changes or events happened in the surroundings, you must have a habit of reading newspaper. You have to update. How can you update? You can update, yes, by using newspaper. The newspaper is the pioneer in the field of mass media. Pioneer means first one. In the mass media, first one started as a mass media, that is what? Newspaper. The first newspaper was published in Britain in 1702. Before the introduction of television itself, newspaper was established. Different newspapers were established, and first one, it was in Britain. In which year? Yes, 1702. It became popular only in the 1890s. But even though it established or started newspaper in 1702, started publishing in 1702, it didn't become popular among people. After a long gap, which means nearly more than 100 years after, in 1890s only, newspaper became popular among people. Nowadays, the newspaper has become almost as necessary as food and clothing. So the people who are interested to update their knowledge, or those people who are interested to understand the happenings in the world, newspaper is very important thing for him, like food and clothing. Then the primary function of the newspaper is to provide news of all kinds. So what are the responsibilities of a newspaper? What is that? The primary function, the main function of the newspaper is to provide news of all types. There is no special news for a newspaper, or they should publish. Millions of copies are printed, read and discussed every day in our country. When we take our own country, India, millions of copies of newspapers are printed and published and read by people. The statesman is anxious to know the latest developments in the political sphere. So, who are the readers of this newspaper? Even if you are a reader, if you are a reader, you will have a particular news item to search in a newspaper. As a student, you will search for the educational news. So same like that, all will have their own particular sphere in a newspaper. So that is what here explaining. What is that? The statesman. The statesman means rulers. is anxious to know the latest developments in the political sphere. So the rulers, they will be very anxious to know what are the changes in the political sphere. If there is any political changes, leaders and their stance may be changed. So if they want to know this all, they have to depend upon the television. The businessman wants correct information about market conditions. So as you know, the businessman, they want to know a correct idea about the business condition. So he will search for business news in the newspaper. The common man has a natural curiosity to know about almost everything in general. But about the common man, he doesn't want to know a particular field. He wants to know each and everything about each and every field. So here he needs an idea about all fields. A successful newspaper caters to the needs of all kinds of readers: scientists, sportsmen, politicians, businessmen, lawyers, and job seekers. So people, according to their own taste, they depend upon television to get their own or their favorite news. But if a newspaper feeds only a particular type of readers, we cannot call it as a successful newspaper. So there is a question: which newspaper can be called as a successful newspaper? Which one can you say? Yes, what is that? That particular newspaper should cater or should give what news for all types of its news readers. A particular reader cannot say or should not say I cannot find my favorite area or favorite subject in that newspaper. I don't want to read that particular newspaper. I want this particular newspaper because I get my favorite news from this particular newspaper. Like that, nobody should say. All should say if I read that particular newspaper, all people can understand almost all areas. So that is what the great thing. So if there is such a newspaper, we can call it as a successful newspaper. So it should cater students, yes, politicians, businessmen, yes, all lawyers, each and everyone. Okay, so that is what called a successful newspaper. Then, besides being informative, newspapers possess literally value too. You may think we depend upon or people depend upon a newspaper for getting only information or incidents which is happening all over the world. That is not correct. Why? Because they have a particular literal responsibility also. Why? Because they should encourage people who write. They contain articles, commentaries, book reviews, stories, poems, biographies, etc. A successful newspaper must contain the following things. What article? A person who is going to write an article must get an idea about the best article from that newspaper. Through that he can get the knowledge of that particular subject discussed in that article. Moreover that a journalist can study from that particular news item. Then commentaries will be there, comments made by the experts. Then book reviews will be there. If you want to know whether that particular book is valuable or not, you have to read the book review. Then stories, poems, especially meant for the small children. Then biographies of people also will be there. That is also there in the newspaper. And the editorials and the lead articles in a newspaper exert much influence on its readers. At the same time, grown-up people, they will be attracted to that particular newspaper not by checking the stories or poems. They will check what, yes, editorials. The opinion of that newspaper will be there in the editorial page. So very important people, they search for the editorial page and they will read it. So that editorial page and lead articles by prominent people in different fields, that also will be searched by people. So that is also needed. That opinions and those articles will give an idea to the common people, even the common people, about a particular incident or a particular subject which is being discussed by that society. So if we want to know a particular incident, whether it is good for the people or bad for people, or whether there is any right thing or whether it is wrong, or if it is useful to the people or not, all we have to understand. That can be understood from this editorial and articles of that newspaper. So they will give a clear idea by checking the legal terms and all. So the reader will get a clear idea about that particular incident. So that will help even the common people to make his own opinion. Even if there is a political issue or a political news, then people will be worried or they will be confused whether it is right or not. So how can the reader, how can he understand whether it is right or wrong? Yes, he has to go to the editorial page and also the important articles written by the famous journalist, and by reading that person will form his own political opinion. Okay, so newspaper has a very important role in making public opinion. So they form and mold public opinion. Businessmen can advertise in the newspapers and thus reach their customers, and at the same time businessmen, they will give advertisement in the newspaper. And when you read the newspaper, there will be colorful advertisements, and your taste will be fixed by this advertisement. Whenever you see a new product, you will go for it, and you will read the advertisement and you will purchase it. If there is no advertisement for a particular product in the newspaper or television, you will not buy it. You will think it is a bad product. That is what the condition now. So that is also very important. The press has a sacred responsibility. So in the previous paragraphs we discussed the importance of newspaper, how a newspaper can be called as a successful newspaper, and what are the news items will be there in a newspaper, why do people read newspaper and all. And the newspaper, they write about different events in not only in our country, in all over the world, and people make or mold their public opinion or their own opinion by reading this newspaper. Okay, so public opinion will be made by whom? Yes, newspaper. So they have a sacred duty, very important duty. Why? Its news and views should be true and impartial. Yes, I told you, if there is a particular incident, we don't know whether that is correct or not. So we read the newspaper, and if the report given in that newspaper is wrong, lakhs of people will make their own opinion by reading that particular newspaper. So it is their fault. It will be a big problem. So newspaper must have a responsibility in publishing the news, which means they must try their level best to make it sure that that particular news item is true, and also they should be impartial. They should not support any political parties. Problems will be there between political parties, people, and instance with different types of problems will be faced by people, and there will be yes, fighting between two countries or people and all. So all will be there in the newspaper. So the newspaper should not support a particular person or a particular company or particular government or any. They should be impartial. The truth should be unfolded by the newspaper. Okay, so that is what a sacred responsibility of the newspaper. The press also serves as a platform where the reader can express his individual and independent views on any burning issue of the day. And as you know, letters can be written by the readers of the newspaper to that particular news bureau. You can write your opinion if you are a permanent reader of a particular newspaper. If you support or if you agree or disagree. Sometimes you may agree with the newspaper, sometimes you may not disagree with the newspaper. So what? You have a platform to write your opinion and send them, and they must publish it. So it is also there. The newspaper updates our knowledge of the world around us, but we should not blindly believe everything that is printed in the newspaper. News stories may at times be exaggerated or distorted. Distort means what? Changing. And yet the newspaper has a very significant role in promoting national integration. So a newspaper has a very important role. I told you. What is that? You should not blindly believe whatever printed in a newspaper. Why? Because sometimes that particular newspaper may knowingly support a bad or a wrong thing. Then if you believe that is what correct, you will be mistaken. So this, you should keep this in your mind, that you can believe 90% of the news which is there in the newspaper, but at the same time you cannot blindly believe any newspaper. Why? Because sometimes they may have they might have misunderstood the particular problem, and they may write in their own way, and that may be wrong. So we cannot say that is what happening, but there is a chance. So that's why in the previous paragraph we discussed that is what the sacred responsibility of the newspaper or that management of that newspaper, to make sure that the published news item is correct, and that is what the truth. Okay, but even sometimes there may be wrong opinion or some problems may be there, so that should be understood by the reader. Okay, so whatever it may be, this newspaper has a very important role in promoting national integration, means the closeness between or among the people all over the country. That is what promoted by the news papers. Okay, they will publish the important ideas of national feeling, and they will publish it, and people will read it, and they will be proud of their country. So in this particular field or in this particular subject, newspaper plays a very important role in promoting national integration or closeness among people, citizens in a particular country is promoted by whom? Yes, newspaper. They will give such news items and people will read it and they will love their country and they will be ready to fight for their country. So it is what very important. So this is what our lesson about newspaper. Hope you understood it, and you can go through this lesson very carefully and you can attend the side questions given there. Okay, thank you.